This week, I'm joined by Kate Howard from Xero. And as you can probably tell from listening to me, I'm not well. So I'm going to be trying to ask Kate as many questions as possible to save my voice. But essentially today, what we're going to do is dive into Xero's recent accounting and bookkeeping industry report, dive into some of the insights and information that it's brought to the fore on how the accounting industry has been performing over the last year. But before we do any of that, Kate, can you, I guess, run us through why this kind of report is important to Xero?
Thank you, and sorry you're feeling so rough. So, why is this important to Xero? I think the one thing we are passionate about is using our ability to connect with lots of accountants and bookkeepers and small businesses to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on. And the reason we do this is it's a great moment in time to see where the profession's going and how people are feeling, and then how we can help. Not just as Xero, but as an industry, a profession, move it forward. I think there's one thing most people know is we're passionate about accountants and bookkeepers. So we just like it as a steady checkpoint. So we've got some facts and figures to learn what's going on.
Yeah, and the partner channel has always been something that Xero's focused quite heavily on, and has been beneficial to Xero because of those deep relationships you built up with accountants and bookkeepers over time. But how do you carry this out? Because I guess there's, one of the concerns I guess people will have with this is that this can be quite biased, especially with what's coming out of it. So talk us through how you get to the answers, how you get the information that goes into the report.
So we don't actually carry it out ourselves as Xero. We get a third party to do the survey, and it's actually a blind survey. So those accountants and bookkeepers answering the questions don't even know that it's for us. And like it says in the report, we try to go to a wide range of accountants and bookkeepers of all sizes and shapes to make sure that we've got an equal distribution of those answering it. So we can really see that it's a full spectrum approach and also not biased or for our own good or purposes, so to say.
Yeah, and it's although it's recently come out, the survey I assume was done a little while ago because it takes a while to bring all this information together and make it look pretty.
It does look pretty. So thank you to the team
It
when you're
does.
watching. So the data was collected around December, January time. And then, like you said, it takes a while to carry out the interviews, carry out the panels. We then get all the quantitative data in, and then we do some follow ups with individuals, as you'll see through there, to get their opinions from a more qualitative perspective of the industry. So, yeah, it was done a few months ago.
Yeah, and I guess it was a few months ago. It's going to be around tax return season, so I guess the only bias I can think that comes out of this is those that are absolutely snowed under with tax returns are probably not the ones that are engaging. So maybe there's some bias in the fact that those that are interacting are maybe those that are a bit more advanced or digitally savvy because they've been proactive and got things done earlier.
So don't get me wrong, there's a big thing that I say at Xero is we can't stay in our echo chamber. You and I both know that there are accountants and bookkeepers that are the front runners, they're digitally advanced. There's some people that probably don't know this show's happening, don't know that this report was
Only a few
happening.
people.
Only a few people, not very many out of the thousands of accountants and bookkeepers. So is there a bias towards those people that are interested in the profession and moving forward versus those that's not? Maybe because maybe they wouldn't even acknowledge a survey, but we try to make it as industry relevant as possible, so to say.
Yeah, and as agnostic as possible, right? To
Correct.
try and remove as much bias as feasible. So let's dive into some of the insights that come out of this because I think it's been especially from what I've read of this report and what we covered on the podcast, it's been a pretty positive year. There seems to be a lot of good things going on in the accounting profession, and one of the key stats I took away from it is nearly 80% of firms saw an increase in revenue, which is great.
It is
Um,
great.
yeah, and then nearly similar, 75%, just under 75%, saw an increase in profits. Now, you're always trying to grow. You're always going to have firms that are always trying to grow. And generally with inflation, you're trying to grow, but that doesn't always come down to the bottom line. So I think that's a big plus that we're still seeing as a profession, an improvement in performance.
I agree. I think I'm sure many accountants and bookkeepers would have this conversation with their small businesses. Growing top line and growing bottom line at the same time is hard, and yet they're managing to do it. And I think the thing that interested me the most about this is that it's not just with existing clients deepening those relationships, which plays a part of it. It was actually the new services offered. That was something quite different to me that I don't think has come up as strongly in prior reports.
Yeah, and that I picked that up as well in that um, accountants are trying new things. We're not being static. We're not being, I guess, just staying in our lane. We are broadening, and to some extent, I guess, following what happened with COVID, everyone was like, we need to manage risk by doing more things, right?
Yeah.
You kind of, if then an area we lose income on, well, actually, we've got the other areas to carry us along the way. And there's some areas that are more profitable than others. Maybe those are a bit more speculative, and we're seeing accountants dabble in that. And I think a key area, although I'm not sure it was covered in the report, is digital. This is a growing area in accountancy firms, and those that are doing it well create pretty good margins off the back of it. So, and that probably aligns more closely with those that are digitally focused firms.
Yeah.
Um, but were there any other key takeaways that you had? Obviously, we'll dive into some of the detail, but any like kind of headline statements?
The other one that I was intrigued with, based on some other kind of macro trends going on, is where it comes from a service perspective, and the link between 2/3 coming from of the revenue coming from bookkeeping and then advisory, and how they're often seen quite differently. But without good bookkeeping, good data quality, you can't do the advisory piece. So that bit for me is something that I think, I hate the word advisory, by the way, which is not, I shouldn't say that publicly. But that for me was quite interesting when you start to dig down into that.
Yeah, and I think the number one growing area that I've seen in accountancy over the last few years is what we now call as outsourcing, right? And more advanced bookkeeping, overlaying or intertwining the advisory and bookkeeping side to provide a much more rounded service. And definitely on the back end of COVID, so many businesses wanted some additional support. They lost people through retirement,
Yep.
and so we're like, okay, well, we need some support. We can try and hire. It's a challenging market to hire. Can we bring in, I guess, a partner, a fractional bookkeeper, to support us with our business? And that seems to have, the firms that have done that really well have seen that being the biggest growth area. That's what I've seen in every conversation I've had. And I guess the report kind of feeds into that, backs that up.
Correct. Yeah. And to that bit as well, it's that bookkeeping not just being you're making sure that all the numbers and everything's in the right place, but it's deepening that client relationship to the so what and the insight from it, from that I think is the interesting bit. That it's the bit that I love, having been an accountant, and I always like to do. So I'm always happy when I see that coming through.
Yeah, it's good. And obviously, as yeah, it's a cloud focused report, right? Because it's coming from Xero. There was an interesting, probably not that surprising statistic that came out of it, is that when you're comparing those that are cloud focused firms compared to those that are desktop focused firms, you're seeing a much bigger client growth with those that are cloud focused, and that's not surprising at all because most businesses now, they're looking to their accountant to provide a much more rounded service, much more dynamic service. So those that want to have ongoing conversations, and it's really hard to do that if you're still working on desktop software. So, I mean, it's quite a notable difference. So 51% of those that I guess are cloud focused saw growth, whereas it was only 30%, 38% of those that were desktop. And I think that's a theme that kind of continues to run through all the paper. But the other bit that was actually probably smaller print than I expected from a Xero report is that 68% of those that were fully integrated Xero users saw client growth. So a much notable higher figure compared to some of the others. Is there any reason you've made that smaller? Is it just like you don't want to shout about too much? This is more for general purpose, and then the back, the little bit was like, yeah, we're still great.
I mean, we like we say, we try to do this for the benefit of everyone. So we don't want to just, it's not a sales thing for us. But that is true about an integrated suite, right? I think we all know that uh, we talk about the cloud enabling more up to date, better client relationships, more conversation. And so if you are able to do the jobs quicker in a more efficient way with more accuracy, that's great. Now, having been, if you do the whole process that's integrated and you're not going from system to system, data in, data out, there are just natural efficiencies there from both a process perspective and how the people are doing it. So it doesn't surprise me that that stat comes out. I'm not sure we're fully there yet. From a profession of what is that best curated app stack in Xero, out of Xero, with Xero, I think that's still, it's a trend that's continuing to go as the technology progresses, I would say.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be a full Xero suite to some extent, right? Because Xero's got a great API and connects with so many other
Correct.
systems, so you can still get all that data flow. But it's well known that a key strategy for Xero is building out that kind of XPM side in the UK. So I assume are you seeing growth in that area?
Yeah, I think how I like to think of it is what I would love to be able to do is have a books to tax experience that is seamless and differentiated. That's the bit for me that the bookkeeping information flows through to tax. Then practice management over the top can look at your job management as you go. So we are seeing growth in that area, but I think there's more to come without saying too much.
Oh, well, that's a teaser. And to be honest, it's something that I would like to see because there's always been a frustration for me for training firms in that the data seemed to go from ledger to work papers to ledger to tax. I always wanted to go ledger, work papers, tax. It just felt like a
I
nicer flow
agree.
for me.
Well, I don't. I
That's coming, isn't it?
I'm not. I say nothing. I say nothing.
All right, okay. Well, let's pull it back into the data then that's in this report and talk about some of those. So, um, some of the reasons for growth I found quite interesting. So, some of them are very, very obvious. Like for the main leader for growth in revenue is new clients. Well, duh. Well, that kind of makes sense that will happen. But 46% of growth of those that saw growth came from existing client relationships. So we are expanding our services with our current clients, which I've definitely seen a focus. I know I'm not part of an accountancy firm anymore, but that was something we were seeing quite notably in the firm we were at. But I think the profit side was interesting. Is that we're charging higher margins on our work. We are trying to value our work slightly differently. We're not doing time based fee. You can tell my brain's not working properly. Whatever it's
Mm.
called,
I
whatever
know what
time
you
based
mean.
fees. There you go.
Time-based
Yeah,
fees.
thank you. But we are now trying to do value pricing to some extent. And maybe that is a growing trend and something we're going to see improve over time. The problem is if we're doing fixed fee, there is a risk. So we could make a loss, we could make a profit, we're not just charging for time. But I think the fixed fee approach means that you're creating more certainty with your clients, which means they're more likely to stay around. You're not going to send them that kind of anomalous invoice at some point where it's a huge bill that they're not expecting. They know what they're getting. You'd have to negotiate that on a year or 3 yearly basis or whatever your term is. But that's a big positive thing that came out of that. Were there any other key from how I guess um, uh, accounting firms were seeing growth across revenue, profit, or number of clients?
Um, no, I think you've hit on the main ones. I think I'm a big believer in pricing for value, by the way, and time and materials feels. I mean, if you go back to the history of when that started, it's pretty ridiculous how we haven't got a new method for doing that. It started many moons ago in the legal profession. So I think that is something. I think MTD for income tax is amplifying that because I think people are realizing there's definitely an impetus for action or an impetus for change of we can't all now we have to change. We can't continue to price in that way. But I think none of these are isolated. So if you think about deepening client relationships, you're adding more value. That actually enables you to have the conversation because it's not once a year, here's all the information, I don't know how long it's going to take you. I think it enables firms to be more forward thinking, more advanced, planning for their own time and how they interact with clients. So again, I think it's that they're driving client relationships, they're driving new services, they're driving better fees, but also the efficiencies within the practice. I think the profit piece is also technology does enable you to look at your processes and take out costs. You can then decide what you want to do with that cost, whether it is have less people and keep your firm the same size but drive profit margin, or if you want to go for growth. I think one of the things that I'm always passionate about is not every accountant and bookkeeper wants a bigger practice, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Not everyone wants to be busier. Some people want to say, actually, I want to spend more time at home, or I want to do 3 days, or I want to go and run Ironmans, or whatever they want to do. And I think that's the bit for me. It's about choice of driving the efficiency through to the bottom line to then decide how you want to play it. So they're the main trends that we're seeing. But MTD for IT is definitely causing a bit of a shake up in how people are pushing this forward and thinking about their firm as a whole.
definitely. And there's a few things I guess that I want to pick out there. So, firstly, that whole digital nomad is something that has become, it's come out of nowhere. As soon as you had cloud technology, you can work from anywhere, flexibility of delivery, and therefore flexibility in how you run your firm because people, your staff, are now demanding a more flexible approach. That's a critical pillar now in any accounting firm, is flexibility.
Yeah.
Efficiency being the next one. So as you say, adopting new technology. How can we automate internally? And firms, probably about 3-4 years ago, especially when MTD for VAT came out, were very focused on client like systems. We need to look at what the client's doing. And now over the last couple of years, we've come and looked internally. We've turned that round, and we're focusing on actually we've brought in efficiencies for our clients, but we're still working in the dark ages. So let's automate what we do. And then finally, delivering more value, delivering more information. And I think a critical example that I've come across with this is that with the digital service that I have evolved over time in what I deliver, there was a little while ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, where I increased what I did, took a punt and added on about 20% of additional work that I wasn't charging clients for initially. But from doing that, I gained so many insights that I can provide back to the client that actually over time, I managed to then more than double the fee that I was charging. So
Wow.
just for that increase in 20%, I managed to massively improve the margin. And that's really just going, well, yeah, the fear with accountants is that, our clients won't pay more. That's not right. They will pay more if they see more value. And so
Correct.
we just need to shift what we do and go, maybe it isn't about compliance, it is about advisory, and intertwining those to provide a fully rounded service.
I totally agree with that. I think the bit around the value, there's we saw this in COVID as well. It's the human to human connection of someone that just knows you. The beauty and the curse of small businesses is they are so different. You will have a builder in the southwest and a builder in Scotland, and their situation is different of how they do it, their size. So the personalization that you can have as an accountant or bookkeeper through to the advisory piece is really, really beneficial. So that's the bit for me that I think a lot of some of the profession are starting to see and build to drive that value.
Definitely. And we touched on it, or you touched on it earlier, in the fact that we are looking inwards, we're driving efficiency. And the most significant change in any of this seems to be adoption of new technology. We are bringing in new tools. We are not just staying on the same static thing we've had for so long. We're actually looking and making change. Now, it is painful. We have to go through that. So the fact we're doing that and we're making better profits, I mean, that's an amazing success.
And I think it's one of the things when we speak to accountants and bookkeepers that maybe are less advanced in their digital journey of that initial change curve, where yes, it's going to invest in time, probably a bit of money and stress, but the return of doing it and the payback probably isn't as long or far out as you think. So I think that's the bit that we talk about a lot, that you're not going to get this benefit tomorrow. You're going to have to put in the hard yards now, but the payback, we have one firm that actually they implemented some of Xero tax, and this tax season for partnerships tax and personal tax, they were 6 weeks ahead with exactly the same amount of clients than the year before. That for me is how you measure it. And it's hard to do that because staff push back. I've always done it this way. My process is different. This feels inefficient. But actually, like any change curve, it is new, it's different. But once you get used to it, if you've mapped it out properly, it should have a payback.
Yeah, and you can calculate these things nowadays. If you're unsure what to do, you can process map out how you currently operate. You can look at the new technology and process map out how you would operate, and then visually demonstrate the two different processes. And with that, if you calculate, if you put in kind of how long it takes you to do those things in both of, both before and after, then you can work out cost of operations in both of those and work out, an efficiency saving, and with it, a return on investment with the implementation fees. And that's what I do with the businesses I work with. And from that, on average, and this, these aren't huge businesses, you can get a return on investment in about a year, which
I
is
agree. Huge.
hugely significant. The first 3 months, yeah, that's
Hard.
horribly painful. So you've got to pick the right time to do a transition. Maybe don't do it over December and January.
No, and the right people. Depending on your size of your firm, one thing we do is we try and encourage is gamify it. So actually, we've had
Yeah,
it where you've got people side by side, and it's literally a race with a stopwatch of how quickly can you do this piece of work, and it just helps from a team morale perspective of actually we can do this. This is what it looks like. So. Your way of maybe for management and to see the return on investment, but make sure you bring your staff along the journey of what this
of
change can
course.
look like and how you can make it fun. So I think that's where we try and dual look at that.
Yeah, and I think I think the kind of return on investment to some extent also helps with the staff, because they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. What's the benefit to me? And you have to show them tangibly, actually, your bit of work now you can do a lot quicker. And we're not saying, at least at the start, we're going to give you more clients here. There might be something that can grow over time, and you can deliver more work and have more better engagements, all the mundane stuff. it's going. But yeah, it's an interesting period. And one of the brilliant things I thought of the report, going back to that, because we
Sorry.
can talk all day about firms. No, it's fine. It's me. Is that you focused on, well, what are the biggest opportunities and challenges that firms are looking at? And I thought, unsurprisingly, the two-letter word or two-letter acronym of AI came up. So the biggest opportunity in the next 1 to 2 years is advancement in AI. Every firm is thinking this is a big win, not the fear mongering, not the oh god we're all going to be out of a job, but actually we can use this to make a tangible benefit to our firm. Are you, as well as what the report said, are you experiencing that in the conversations you're having with your partners?
Yes, but if you look on the other side of the second biggest challenge, it was how do we utilize AI? So I think everyone can see the benefit it can have. What people are, when I speak to them, but what do I do? Like, how do I break this down to make it a step by step process to actually make it happen? So if I think back to even Xero, when you implement Xero, it's like it's not that different to how you did it before. It's doing it in a, the buttons might be a bit different, but the process you might adapt. But AI is different, and I think the big thing is the speed of AI. Like you look at the utilization of AI, but also the use cases that are coming through. That's what's scaring people. But everyone believes in it. So the conversations we normally start with are how are you going to bring it in day by day, and how are you upskilling individually, as teams, as firms, but with your small businesses or your clients as well. So it's definitely, it's hard. I think it's still hard.
Yeah, and I think you summarised that brilliantly. I think there's that everyone can generally see since large language models came out, since ChatGPT kind of came to the fore, everyone's like, oh, I can see the big benefit here, but I don't know how to actually use it. And we've seen a lot of potential things. You know, there's lots of co-pilots out there, and to some extent, we can get good interactions with those. You know, you can't avoid a meeting now without a note taker being in there, recording everything you say. But there are, we're still yet to see that big shift. We're still yet to see the big thing that can make a huge difference. We are, you know, there are new systems. You've got the likes of Briefcase Genesis, which are disrupting in the OCR space. You've got Digits over in the US, and as well as TurboTax disrupting the personal tax side. And I know that Xero are looking at this and already embedding it in certain areas their software. I'm a massive fan of the AI engine in invoicing, in that I'll just type something that's going on and it will already pick up the code. And to date, it has been 100% accurate for me. I'm less keen of Jax, but maybe we should move on from that one.
Fair, I hear it, and I've seen the feedback on Jax. I think there's two things from a Xero perspective I'd say about AI, and AI in general. And I probably need to watch my language because I can swear too much. But the problem with AI is sometimes these use cases are it's rubbish, it's rubbish, it's rubbish, it's rubbish, and it's going to have that inflection point when it's really good, and that's
Yeah.
hard to come through. I think we've been particular in where we started with Jax and the fact that we were in beta and then we've rolled it out. We know that there's use cases that are a lot more beneficial to the accounting and bookkeeping audience that we're working on. But going back to what everything at Xero is, trusted and insightful. Trust is a big thing for us here from a large language model, accounting data, accuracy. That's really, really important. So we won't do anything until we're ready to actually push it out. So hear you on Jax, but watch this space.
Well, look, it's fair enough. It's not like you've got your competitors bringing out something that's fundamentally better and you've not had a huge data breach, which is helpful. So there are positives around Jax. I think realistically, the when cloud came out, everything was open to disruption, and Xero was that main disruptor. And at least, you know, across the UK, that's what we've seen. And the release and the impact of AI means that, you know, where the next competitor Xero may not be from anyone that you currently know, maybe a completely new person in the market. But I know you're doing a lot on that. You're looking at AI and you're embedding it into the system, as you say. You're doing it in areas that should accentuate or improve functionality without breaking down that trust, which is,
Correct.
in my opinion, the right way to approach it.
Thank you.
Um, but the other big, I guess, challenge for accounting firms that were flagged was adapting to technological change, because there's so much now. There's so much that goes on.
Yes, so much. And I think with that, one thing that I hear, we saw it in here, and I'd be keen to get your opinion on this. We have gone through one tech stack to multiple tech stacks of multiple different uses of technology. And we go into some firms and their tech stack is so complex. I don't
Yeah,
understand the return on investment. I feel like we're at the convergence going back again into curated. But how people do that and what they need to do and then how they train their team is definitely something I hear all the time of I'm constantly assessing technology, working out if it's better, but is it better? Is it not better? Like it's just overwhelm. We hear that a lot. So I haven't got an answer to that. I think simplicity, um, understanding the use case and the what you're trying to achieve, what are your KPIs, what does success look like is really, really important because sometimes the new and shiny, but do you actually need it? Like why does that
yeah.
impress you? So there's a bit of that going on. So technology overwhelm is well and truly in the market, in my opinion.
Completely agree. Accountants definitely have magpie syndrome. We
Yeah.
like to look at the new shiny tool and we think, oh, that's great, I'll bring it in without actually a plan or knowing what that's going to do and hit to our overall strategy. And a lot of firms don't have that strategy. They don't know where they want to be. And that does cause a problem. But I think the main thing is that accountancy is changing. It used to be very insular. We'd stick to our own firm. We didn't talk to people. But now community is everything. And so if you are seeking to do something with your firm, talk to your peers, talk to others that are in the space, and also don't feel that you shouldn't bring in external consultants, that you should be the expert. We're great at knowing what we do, but we're also great at partnering. So if a client comes to us and they need some legal help, we don't jump in and go, I can do that. We've got a partner that we bring in with that central space, and that's how we should work as a firm. And there's now brilliant advisors out there that do this. Obviously, myself, but there's others such as Ariona and Luke Farron, who are helping firms evolve, and they can do it for you. Because the other big thing that we've got a problem with is we don't have the capacity, we don't have time, we're just too busy.
Yep. And you don't have time to do even the work that you've got, let alone think about the new in the
Yes.
future.
And speaking of work that we've got, the other final bit I wanted to bring up is the making tax digital for income tax. You referred to it earlier, and it is a huge change in the way we work, because it's not really about the tech anymore. Of it, I think all of the tech platforms have kind of resolved it. They made it really easy to deliver. Is how we change that engagement with our clients. Because do we need, as you say, a more frequent interaction so the data is better, and therefore do we need to charge them for that? How do we bring the value in to enable us to charge for that? And I think that's where we need greater support really across the entire profession. Is what should we be doing? There's great talks out there. The shows have covered it really well. Accountex a big focus on making tax digital for income tax. But what are I guess Xero partners doing when they're talking to their firms? Are they also trying to help in how to have those conversations and how to build out that internal I don't know, internal structure, that internal pivot point to deal with MTD?
Yeah. So I'm quite passionate about this. That you have to think about MTD for income tax as end to end. So we have actually built toolkits if you're a Xero partner that you can get to that helps you think about segmenting your data, the end-to-end process from data ingestion through to bookkeeping quarterly and end of year. The business model that you want to have, is it you're going to do everything, but then how do you charge for it? Which elements of that are your clients going to do versus what you're going to do? So there's a whole toolkit that we're helping, especially with communicating and educating. The big part of this is that the small businesses have no idea this is happening. And so we have even kind of small business events in a box, small business marketing in a box to help you help your clients in this regard. So there's lots of information out there. There's one stat that I want to pull up on because I think you mentioned it on your podcast. I think 75% are optimistic, but
Yep,
if you dig down, 36% are fully prepared and 46% are adequately prepared, which means there's over 50% that aren't prepared, although they're optimistic. So there's still a long way to go with getting ready.
definitely. And it's only around the corner, the amount of firms that have left it very late. And if you don't know your tech stack, that's going to be a challenge already because, as you say, there's so much that you need to put in place. All right, we're pretty much at the end of the show. Wanted to shout out Luke Farron, who's commented on how important process mapping is. Completely agree. But there was something, and I'm going to throw this out. You're not expecting it, but there was someone that put a comment in one of the channels I'm in that said that Xero are tweaking their UI, especially around dashboards. Is that something that you're aware and can talk about?
So I think I can share actually the blog post that goes into a lot more detail about all of this. We want our UI to be beautiful across every single aspect of Xero. And so we are going through stage by stage to make sure it's consistent. And when you log on to Xero, you look at it. So there'll be more to come on this, and how actually our UI continues to be modern, and it continues to be the Xero that you love, everyone loves. The thing we hear all the time is the differentiator for Xero is how easy it is to use from a visual perspective, both for accountants and bookkeepers and small businesses, and we don't want to use that. So you can read a bit more about that on the blog, and there'll be more to come.
Brilliant. Interested to see that. And yes, I think that the UI in Xero is one of the biggest positives. So you have to be very careful on the changes you make to make sure you don't damage that in any way.
Correct. Change management is something that we are learning quickly, and we will continue to improve.
Cool. Well, look, thank you so much, Kate, for coming
That's
on.
right.
I think it's a very insightful report. I'll make sure that we put the links to it so people can download it if they've not seen it already, and that blog post as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.